There had she grown to the stature of her spirit, the genius of titanic silences, steeping her soul in its wide loneliness, had shown to her herself's bare reality and mated her with her environment.
Yes, we have a number of things here. So let's take a look.
Yeah.
There. Where is this there? Can you tell me?
She was in the forest, no?
Yes, exactly. And that is the place where she had grown to this degree of development, this stature of her
Mm,
spirit. But there's a colon after that.
yeah.
And you sort of ended it abruptly.
Mm,
It's not quite that abrupt as a full stop,
right,
but,
right.
but it is a colon. So there had she grown to the stature of her spirit, the genius of titanic silences. Titanic here is used in a different way by Sri Aurobindo, not the Titan way, but
Mm-hmm,
great force.
mm-hmm,
So this genius of great power or force, this genius of silences that's steeped. Steeped here is immersed.
mm,
Immersed her soul in its wide loneliness,
mm,
had shown to her there herself's bare reality, and and mated her with her environment. So she felt that oneness with Satyavan when she met him. But here we're looking back. This is a flashback from Sri Aurobindo,
mm,
telling us about Savitri and what she had to do.
mm.
So now he carries on very powerfully with her work. So you can begin.
Its solitude greatened her human hours with a background of the eternal and unique. A force of spare direct necessity reduced the heavy framework of man's days and his overburdening mass of outward needs to a first thin strip of simple animal wants, and the mighty wildness of the primitive earth, and the brooding multitude of patient trees, and the musing sapphire leisure of the sky, and the solemn weight of the slowly passing months, had left in her deep room for thought and God.
As you read these over and over again, one day the rhythm will become easier.
Mm,
But you're doing okay for now. So let's see what he says here. He says this force of spare direct necessity. Well, there was no palace anymore.
mm,
There were not these wonderful princes and princesses coming to the palace and meeting with the great sage Ashwapati and his very intelligent wife.
mm,
She's in the forest, and all she has to do is cook the food, clean the house, and that's about it. And
mm,
and be as much as possible with Satyavan.
mm,
So this force of spare direct necessity that can reduce the heavy framework of our days.
mm,
In other words, this framework is something that supports us,
mm,
like a skeletal support for something. So we have, all of us experienced, or at least most of us, experienced the framework of day to day heavy work, incessant work at times.
mm.
I can remember working 14, 16 hours a day and getting very little sleep. That was a heavy framework.
Right. Mm,
And this overburdening is something that weighs us down with too great a burden. It's an overloading of
Mm.
outward needs. What are our outward needs? Well, they're food, they're,
Mm.
they're companionship sometimes, or silence and aloneness. For her, everything was reduced to a first thin strip of simple animal wants. Okay, Satyavan cuts the wood from the trees. He brings it in. She starts the fire. They cook the food. And that's their simple animal wants. That's about it. And then he says the mighty wildness of the primitive earth. You already know that it's a primitive earth because
Mm.
all they have is a few little cottages that are covered with creepers, and there's this deep forest, this brooding multitude of patient trees. And then when one looks up, there's the musing sapphire leisure of the sky. And beyond that, we have the solemn weight of these slowly passing months, because now she is already aware that this 12-month period is getting smaller and smaller when Satyavan is going to die.
Mm.
So all of this has left in her deep room for thought and God. Now we have some more, because he's speaking now of her radiant prologue.
Mm.
It's an introductory event.
Mm.
Okay, there.
There was her drama's radiant prologue lived, a spot for the eternal's tread on earth, set in the cloistral yearning of the woods, and watched by the aspiration of the peaks, appeared through an aureate opening in time, where stillness listening felt the unspoken word, and the hours forgot to pass towards grief and change.
You want to go a little bit clearer on the and, the
Oh,
D. The D,
and
yeah, it should always be pronounced. And there's a lot of ands, of course.
yes,
So we have now this mighty wildness of the primitive earth. We have the multitude of patient trees, the sapphire leisure of the sky that's musing. Now, this is the place where her drama's radiant prologue lived. It is no doubt a spot for the eternal's tread on earth that is set in the cloistral yearning of the woods. Now, I have to speak to you a little bit about a cloister.
mm,
A cloister in the West is a place where these different groups of nuns will live. And when I lived in New York City, if you went north above Harlem and those places, there
mhm,
was the place called the cloisters.
mm,
The cloister is made in a very certain way. There's a beautiful walkway that the nuns would walk up and down to meditate, and then just outside the walkway and its columns, there's a beautiful garden.
mm,
So we have this cloistral, which is secluded, quiet place, this cloistral yearning of the woods. So we have her drama's radiant prologue being lived here.
yes,
Indeed, it is a spot for the eternal's tread on earth,
mm,
set in the cloistral yearning of the woods. So we see this. Why is the woods yearning? Well, because it's a spot for the eternal's tread.
mm,
Woods feel it. And the aspiration of the peaks are watching it.
mm,
They appeared through an aureate opening in time. What is aureate?
I don't know.
Golden.
Okay.
Golden. Brilliant golden, yes. So it appears through this golden opening in time. Now, have we done time?
I think we have.
I thought we had also.
Yeah.
And then he says, where stillness listening felt the unspoken word, and the hours forgot to pass towards grief and change. So it's sort of that, we could say almost, I don't want to be too specific, but it's almost a limbo that she's in right now. She's aware of this whole earth and the force of spare direct necessity and the overburdening mass of outward need. She's aware of the wildness, of course, of the primitive earth, the patient trees, the sky, and everything then has brought her to this point where left in her deep room for thought and God. Now, we have the cloistral yearning of the woods. We have this appearance through an aureate opening in time. And stillness now is listening, and it's even feeling the unspoken word. And the hours forget to pass towards grief and change. Now we have a very interesting passage, and we're going to take some time on this because we are getting to a passage, maybe not tonight, but very soon, that is the greatest passage describing Savitri in the entire book.
Wow.
Yes. So first, let us go now where we have to go from here with the
Here with the suddenness divine advents have, repeating the marvel of the first descent, changing to rapture the dull earthly round. Love came to her hiding the shadow, death.
now we have to pronounce all this very different. And it is advents, not advents, but advents. Accent is on the first syllable. Here, with the suddenness divine advents have. And an advent, of course, is a special arrival, an important or epoch-making arrival. So Advent is something that comes down. And we see that it comes with a suddenness. We found that when we went in the very beginning, Book 1, Canto 1, and we saw that dawn builds her aura of magnificent hues and buries its seed of grandeur in the hours. And now we have this repeating the marvel of the first descent. Well, for me, the first descent is the descent of the divine into matter, and then life into matter. And that changes to rapture the whole dull earthly round. Now we have love came to her, hiding the shadow of death. And we're going to hear a lot about love, but I'd like to read the definitions of love. Sri Aurobindo. We'll do that now. We have to go slowly through all of this because there's so much to come, and it's so important that we have to be cognizant of it. So, Sri Aurobindo on love from the lexicon.
23.
You have the definitions page?
I do. I just opened that. Now I'm opening the lexicon.
Very good. Very good.
Love is an intense self-expression of the soul of Ananda. Letters on Yoga.
Intense, not intense, but intense.
Intense.
Yes, the accent is on the second syllable.
Mm. Love is in its nature the desire to give oneself to others and to receive others in exchange. It is a commerce between being and being, the life divine.
Now, I don't think Sri Aurobindo means commerce in the usual sense,
Mm,
but it's a connection. Huh? Commerce is a connection.
yeah.
Okay, next.
Love at its origin is a self existent force, an absolute, a transcendent, which does not depend upon the objects. It depends only on itself or only on the divine, for it is a self existent power of the divine. Letters on Yoga.
So now we can see that love, who comes to Savitri, we're going to hear a lot more about him as we go on, because love, Mother says, is the force that will save the world.
Mm.
Yeah, so carry on.
Love is the crown of all being and its way of fulfillment, that by which it rises to all intensity and all fullness and the ecstasy of utter self finding. The synthesis of yoga. Love, in its depths, is a contact of the divine possibility or reality in oneself with the divine possibility or reality in the loved. So beautiful.
Oh, very beautiful.
Yeah.
And it goes, it gets even more and more beautiful.
Love is the power and passion of the divine self delight, and without love, we may get the rapt peace of its infinity, the absorbed silence of the Ananda, but not its absolute depth of richness and fullness. Love leads us from the suffering of division into the bliss of perfect union, but without losing that joy of the act of union, which is the soul's greatest discovery, and for which the life of the cosmos is a long preparation. Therefore, to approach God by love is to prepare oneself for the greatest possible spiritual fulfillment. The synthesis of yoga.
So here he says that love is the greatest possible spiritual fulfillment. He will
Mm,
go on and he will speak about perfect knowledge also in the next quotation. But I think it's very important that we understand that without love, we can get this peace. We can get the silence of the ananda, but not the depth of richness and fullness.
yeah.
It only comes with divine love. So, next one.
Love is the crown of knowledge, for love is the delight of union, and unity must be conscious of joy of union, and unity must be conscious of joy of union to find all the riches of its own delight. Perfect knowledge indeed leads to perfect love, integral knowledge to a rounded and multitudinous richness of love. The synthesis
Um,
of yoga.
the pronunciation again is integral, not integral. Integral,
Integral, integral.
integral, yes. And now we have two from Mother.
Consciousness is indeed the creatrix of the universe, but love is its savior.
There we are. There we are.
Love, love is, in its essence, the joy of identity. It finds its ultimate expression in the bliss of union.
When we read their words, there's nothing in all literature that is greater than what we've just read.
Yeah.
I have read a lot.
I haven't,
And
but
have we done death? So we'll carry on now.
yes.
And then we find that love, which is speaking about here, is well might he find in Savitri, in her, his perfect shrine. So
Mm.
can you begin there?
Well might he find in her his perfect shrine. Since first the earth being's heavenward growth began, through all the long ordeal of the race, never a rarer creature bore his shaft, that burning test of the Godhead in our parts, a lightning from the heights on our abyss.
Well, this is so interesting. See, a shrine is it's a small place usually
Mm,
where like an altar or a chapel or a church or a small temple,
yes.
and devoted to some saint or holy person.
Mm,
So well might love find in Savitri his perfect shrine. Why is that? Because since first the earth being's heavenward growth began, through all the long ordeal of the race, that means through all of the evolution,
mm,
never a rarer creature bore his shaft.
mm,
Now, a shaft here I feel is more like a beam of light or a ray of light.
mm.
It's interesting that the shaft of love is often an arrow. They portray it with an arrow that hits someone in the heart.
Mm, mm,
So here it's a little bit higher than that. Um,
mm.
Never a rarer creature bore his shaft. And what is that shaft? It's the burning test of the Godhead in our parts. And it is also a lightning from the heights on our abyss. Powerfully said. The abyss, of course, is the great deeps in us,
Mm.
darkness is in us. Now he's going to go on and we will see what else he says about Savitri.
All in her pointed to a nobler kind, near to earth's wideness, intimate with heaven, exalted and swift, her young large visioned spirit, voyaging through worlds of splendor and of calm, overflew the ways of thought to unborn things.
A little more concentration on the W of wa, ways, wa, way.
Ways, ways.
Yeah, it gets mixed up in Indian languages.
Mm, mm,
So
uh,
we have thought capitalized here.
mm,
I don't think we've done thought before.
yeah.
So let's do because it's very thorough. And when he says that she is voyaging through these worlds of splendor and of calm with her young, large visioned spirit, she even overflows the ways of thought to unborn things.
Thought in itself, in its origin on the higher levels of consciousness, is a perception, a
No, no,
cognitive
not perception, but perception. On the second floor,
perception,
perception.
perception, a
Yes.
cognitive seizing of the object or of some truth of things, which is a powerful but still a minor and secondary result of spiritual vision, a comparatively external and superficial regard of the self upon the self, the subject upon itself, or something of itself as object, the life divine.
We could say this is almost empirical thinking.
Mm,
of the usual way of the scientist, that if you cannot feel, touch, see, hear, smell it, then it's not real.
Yeah.
And so he does say that in itself, but in its origin and on the higher levels of consciousness, it's a perception. You
Mm.
can perceive things from these higher levels. It is a cognitive seizing of the object,
Mm.
but it is still secondary, a secondary and a minor result of spiritual vision.
Mm.
Now, he'll tell us much more as we go along.
A thought is an arrow shot at the truth. It can hit a point, but not cover the whole target. But the archer is too well satisfied with his success to ask anything further.
There's this humor again. Now, we have two things here.
Mm.
There was success, not success, but success on the second part.
Success.
Yeah.
Success.
So, and you have to work a little on the TH of truth.
Truth.
Sa, sa, sa.
Truth.
Yes, that's better. That's better.
Truth.
Yes. Okay, we'll carry on.
All living thought is a world in preparation. All real act is a thought manifested. Essays in Philosophy and Yoga.
You got that?
Yes.
Good, very good. Next one.
Thought is not essential to existence nor its cause, but it is an instrument for becoming. I become what I see in myself. All that thought suggests to me, I can do. All that thought reveals in me, I can become. This should be man's unshakable faith in himself, because God dwells in him. Essays in Philosophy and Yoga.
So important, huh?
Yeah.
So very important. All that thoughts suggest to me, I can do. And he says that, today's impossibles are tomorrow's realizations.
Mm.
So everything can be done. Everything that thought can reveal in us, we can become.
Mm.
Because God dwells in us.
Yes. I was
He
actually
says at
feeling
times,
this. I was feeling this as a truth the past week, that whatever I think that I will be able to do sometime in the future, and it's like a truth. I don't even have to doubt it. And then I was thinking, am I being arrogant? But it also felt like it's a fact that everything that you conceive of is possible and it can happen.
yes, and we there is a saying from Sri Aurobindo that we think that God is in us, but it's we who are in God.
Mm,
The difference.
yeah.
Okay, carry on.
In reality, thought is only a scout and pioneer. It can guide but not command or effectuate. The synthesis of yoga. But there is another kind of thought that springs out as if it were a body or form of the experience or of the consciousness involved in it, or of a part of that consciousness. And this does not seem to me to be intellectual in its character. It has another light, another power in it, a sense within the sense. Letters on Yoga.
This is very complex.
Mm.
And I think because I've not been there, I cannot say anything about it. But I feel, if I'm absolutely honest, that when things come to us intuitively,
Mm.
that's what he's speaking about here.
Mm.
If poetry suddenly descends in you, if you suddenly have an inspiration that can change the world. I was just reading today about these new pieces of equipment that are cleaning up the ocean.
Mm.
Extraordinary what they are designing. things that take out tons and tons of waste and plastic and everything, and they're
Amazing.
cleaning the rivers, they're cleaning the oceans with it. They have underwater power plants now that are using the waves and the tides to make energy.
Mm,
So many things. So I believe this is what it is. It's that intuitive world.
mm.
Let's go on a little bit more. We'll have to end when we finish this.
Yeah. Our thoughts are not really created within ourselves independently in the small, narrow thinking machine we call our mind. In fact, they come to us from a vast mental space or ether, either as mind waves or waves of mind force that carry a significance which takes shape in our personal mind, or as thought formations ready made which we adopt and call ours. Our outer mind is blind to this process of nature, but by the awakening of the inner mind, we can become aware of it. Letters on Yoga.
Powerful statement, huh?
Yes.
That nothing is really ours. We're
Mm,
just taking these thoughts from
outside.
these ethereal waves. From
Mm,
it says a vast mental space or ether.
mm.
Okay.
That is the way things come, only one does not notice. Thoughts, ideas, happy inventions, etc., etc., are always wandering about, in thought waves or otherwise, seeking a mind that may embody them. One mind takes, looks, rejects; another takes, looks, accepts. Two different minds catch the same thought form or thought wave, but the mental activities being different make different results out of them. Or it comes to one and he does nothing. Then it walks off saying, "Oh, this unready animal," and goes to another who promptly welcomes it, and it settles into expression with a joyous bubble of inspiration, illumination, or enthusiasm of original discovery or creation, and the recipient cries proudly, I have done this. Ego, sir, ego. You are the recipient, the conditioning medium. If you like, nothing more. Letters on Yoga.
So beautiful. But
Yeah.
actually, if one rises even above the overmind,
Mm,
then from the supermind one brings down the truth. Until that, everything is duality
mm,
and nothing is really ours.
yeah.
But there is something, we speak about herd immunity.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the herd intelligence.
Mm,
Someone gets a vision or an intuition of something in America, and
mm,
someone else in India has it immediately.
mm,
I've often spoken of the rats in the maze. The first rat takes 10 minutes to go through the
mm,
from a different area, and it
mm.
5 minutes, and then finally the last rat goes through immediately.
Right. Mm,
These are very interesting statements of Sri Aurobindo. They're so brilliant. So let's
yeah.
do the last two, and then we have to go.
Thoughts unexpressed can also go out as forces and produce their effects. It is a mistake to think that a thought or will can have effect only when it is expressed in speech or act. The unspoken thought, the unexpressed will are also active energies and can produce their own vibrations, effects, or reactions. Letters on Yoga. Thought can be a force which realizes itself, but the ordinary surface thinking is not of that kind. There is in it more waste of energy than in anything else. It is in the thought that comes in a quiet or silent mind that there is power.
Brilliant. So brilliant. Good. So we meet again next week, and then we're going to hear the
The
most
best,
perfect description of Savitri.
yes. Looking forward. Thank you so much.